Are you a CEO looking to scale your company faster and easier? Check out Thrive Roundtable. Thrive combines a moderated peer group mastermind, expert one-on-one coaching, access to proven growth tools, and a 24/7 support community. Created by Inc. award-winning CEO and certified scaling-up business coach Bruce Eckfeldt, Thrive will help you grow your business more quickly and with less drama. For details on the program, visit eckfeldt.com/thrive. That's eckfeldt.com/thrive.
Hey everyone, Bruce Eckfeldt here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications so we can let you know when the next video is posted. You can also check us out at eckfeldt.com for more great content. With that, let's go check out the video.
You're listening to Thinking Outside the Bud, where we speak with entrepreneurs, investors, thought leaders, researchers, advocates, and policymakers who are finding new and exciting ways for cannabis to positively impact business, society, and culture. And now, here is your host, business coach, Bruce Eckfeldt.
Welcome, everyone. This is Thinking Outside the Bud. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host, and I'm here with Jeff, the 420 chef, and I'll be completely transparent with my audience here. This is the second time we're recording this. So we had a conversation several weeks ago, probably a month or two ago. An amazing conversation. Unfortunately, the recording didn't happen quite the way I needed it to. So we're on a redo. But Jeff, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me back.
And Jeff, we're going to talk a little bit about his background in culinary and cannabis. He's got some books. He's got some products he's developed. We're going to hear about all of that. But why don't we start with just kind of understanding the backstory? So how did you get into the culinary arts? How did you get into cannabis? How did this come to fruition for you?
It's crazy. You know, I believe in Kismet, and the universe actually brings you where you're supposed to be. Yeah. I had been going through, that midlife crisis part of your life, like wondering what am I going to do next with my life or whatnot. And a friend of mine's mother ended up, she had cancer, and he would reach out to me for my cooking and baking just because she liked my cakes and cookies and stuff. And then when she was given a medical recommendation for cannabis to help alleviate the pain, he called and said, she can smoke. At that time, vaping wasn't even an option. Yeah. There was just nothing really out there. It was either flour or edibles, right? Yeah. And the old-fashioned type of edibles. Yeah. So I said, well, I don't know what I can do. Maybe I can make some brownies, and I started making brownies and cakes and stuff like that. But there was always that underlying terrible taste. And took away from what I was known for, which was, just like great cakes and cookies. And I wasn't even a chef back then. I was in fashion marketing. Yeah. It was just something that I loved. I just loved to do that, And I set out to figure out a way to take out the cannabis flavor from the edibles, but still keep the potency in there, which nobody had ever done before. Especially coming from flour, it's very difficult. So, it took me about 18 months to figure it out, but I actually figured out how to take out the taste from the cannabis taste from the cannabis. So when I make my oils and butters, the canna oil and canna butters, and I use those to, cook and bake with, that the food tasted great and didn't taste like, grassy herbaceous cannabis like we're all used to. Yeah.
And actually just tell people, because I did that, for those people that are not familiar with kind of the baking process or the kind of the culinary aspect of this. So how do you actually go about going from real kind of raw plant product to a baked good? Like what are the steps from a cannabis point of view that you have to go through?
Right. So what you have to do is you have to take the trichomes that are on top of the plant, which is basically those little crystals that everyone knows, and sees. Yeah. And those crystals have to somehow come off the plant to get into your cooking ingredients, like a butter and oil, right? You want to put in your basing ingredients. Yeah. So the issue with the cannabinoids, specifically trichomes, is that they're hydrophobic, meaning that they'll stick to the plant at all costs. So until we figured out that you can actually remove the terpenes from the plant, I'm sorry, not the terpenes, remove the trichomes from the plant in a fat for, the trichomes are soluble in a fat. Got it. So butter or oil is a great solvent. Mm-hmm. And you just put your plant matter in the butter and oil, the trichomes slough off over a period of time, and then you have your infused canna butter or canna oil. So your base ingredients are going to be your butter and oil. Obviously, those are base ingredients in many things that we cook. So anything that you can cook with butter and oil, you can now make with cannabis.
Got it.
So, we figured out that instead of, taking your cannabis and throwing it into a crock pot like everybody did and putting your butter and oil in there and, getting out all the schmutz that's in your, in your cannabis is going into your butter and oil into your body. I figured out a way to clean off that schmutz beforehand. And we realized that schmutz was really responsible for a lot of the taste. I say schmutz, but it's like dirt, whatever. You would be
organic matter of various sorts.
Organic matter, but also, chlorophyll, for example. Chlorophyll has a very bitter taste. There's that plant taste, and we take all that out before we infuse it into the butter and oil.
But this was you at home in your kitchen, though, figuring this out. I mean, the original process was very homegrown.
Yes. This is me in my kitchen working every single day, obsessed with getting that flavor.
How many pounds of cannabis do you go through trying to figure out this recipe?
Seriously, I can't even tell you. But I would think if I was buying a quarter of an ounce a week to do this with, and then I upgraded and so it's like a half an ounce a week, you can figure it out for yourself. It took a lot of time. And, I was living in New York, but I was flying back and forth to California because they couldn't do that legally in New York, And in California, I couldn't even really do it legally. I had to do it, at her house or, somebody else's house who had, had to have what they call a medical recommendation. It wasn't even adult use back then. So there's a lot of hard work, a lot of travel expenses, a lot of, going back and forth and trying to figure this out, but it all paid off. And now I teach people how to remove all those contaminants or the majority of the contaminants from their cannabis in their own home. They can do it themselves. And they're not going to get a tasteless butter and oil, but they get a very light tasting butter or oil. And it's a very simple cleaning process. It takes a bit of time. It takes a couple of days to really get it, really, really clean, but it works. And every single person who's tried it, I've never had anybody try it and say that they hated it or that, it wasn't a much better after product than when they started.
So tell me, because I know we talked about this last time, tell me about the story of how you kind of broke into the market from a media point of view, because there's a good challenge, I think, that was put to you that ultimately you passed.
Well, the challenge was take out the flavor and figure out dosing, and those are two big things. And if you can do that, then, then you probably have something pretty valuable to bring to people. And so I made a batch of cupcakes and I thought I ruined it because I'm eating this delicious cupcake and it didn't taste like cannabis at all. And all of a sudden, 3 hours later, I find myself in the aisle of CVS and I'm like, why am I in the snack aisle at CVS and how did I even get here? I didn't even realize it. I was super high, and I got back to my place and I was like, holy cow. I called my friend Brian, who's very well connected in the entertainment and media field. And I said, I think I just figured out how to take out the taste and, completely and keep the potency. And he's like, I don't have time for this right now. Call my friend Justin Jones of the Daily Beast. Maybe you can share it with him and maybe he'll do an article for you or something. So I meet with Justin the next day. We have brunch and I give him my cupcake. And I said, let me know how you like the cupcake. And he said, I'll tell you what, I want to write an article about you. I said, great. And I'll let you know in the article how I like it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Like, okay, what do I have to lose, right? So 5 days later, the article came out and it was Meet the Julia Child of Weed. And from that point on, I started getting phone calls from, very, very well-known chefs. I mean, people I had seen on TV or heard about, and all of a sudden they're calling me, can you teach me how to do this? And I said, sure, I'll teach you how to do it. I won't charge you, but what I'd like in return is for you to teach me something. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot and taught a lot of really top chefs. And then one of those chefs called me chef, and I was like, I'm not really a chef. He goes, no, you are. He said, you've invented a culinary process that no one's ever invented before. You're teaching it to top chefs, and you're a damn great cook. I said, all right, great. And I at the 420 Chef pretty much. And from that point on, I mean, very shortly after that, Newsweek did a 4-page story on me, and Really Daily did a huge video. They got 3.5 million views, and a lot of things just started to take off. And that's why I say I believe in Kismet, because the universe brought me to this place. Everything I did the work that I had to do, but the universe then took that and helped me and helped guide me along the path that I was at. Till I became Jet the 420 Chef.
That's great. Then tell me a little bit about the cookbook. So I know you put that into kind of print form. What was the goal of the cookbook? What do you cover in the cookbook? What was that process like?
After the article came out, I was getting approached by all these publishing companies. And, one of the publishing companies, it was a long story how we got there, but HarperCollins found out about it. And I'm sitting there, and I said, here, I have all these recipes. What should we do with them? And they're like, we're going to do a cookbook with you. And ended up writing this cookbook with over 100 cannabis-infused recipes. But the magic of the cookbook is the fact that, number one, in the book, we teach you how to clean your cannabis, that process I was telling you about. We teach you how to dose it properly. If you follow my method for taking out you'll be able to dose it properly. You'll be able to know how many milligrams per serving, and that's all written in the book. Each recipe will tell you if you use a strain that's X percentage and you follow our guidelines, this is what you can look at from a potency per serving. So that's a really big seller of the cookbook, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's HarperCollins. It was shot by an award-winning culinary photographer who won a James Beard Award for her last cookbook. Her name is Leela Sid. And I'm very proud of it. It was a super labor of love. I worked those 20-hour days for 8 months. But the cookbook's doing really well. You can on Amazon, on our website, any place books are sold, and it's I think one of the top, if not the top selling.
And it's interesting because I think that whole kind of microdosing is where it kind of opens up the possibilities, because I think a lot of, if you're not kind of coming out of the traditional sort of weed culture where it's about let's just get kind of as high as we can as quickly as we can, and you're really looking for kind of nuanced and subtle kind of effects, or you're looking to address certain needs, if you're doing it for insomnia, or you're doing it for if you're under various medical treatments and you're looking for appetites, all of that is about knowing exactly how much you're taking, how the effect's going to play into it, how long it's going to last, and microdosing is a big part of that. And so it sounds like a lot of what you've been able to figure out to do is give people a lot more control over the dosing part.
Yeah, and that's the most important part. You're right, because dosing is a big issue. Yeah. And I mean, every single person out there, they've had a brownie that they've, said, oh my God, I had one bite and it put me away. I mean, like a 500 milligram brownie, that's just not normal. Yeah. Meanwhile, I want people to love my food, right? So I make great cookies, great brownies, and everything else, right? So I'm going to make each of those 1.5 milligrams or 2 milligrams. So you can have 5 of my cookies and dose that at 10 milligrams, which is a really great, very comfortable dose. That you are feeling it, but you're not like couch locked and you don't want to crawl into a fetal position and, just lay there for 55 hours until you're done. So, it's kind of crazy. But low dosing is really important. And you can also play with it. When you low dose food, you can do a whole entire meal where each thing is 1.5, 2 grams. And that's how I became the catering chef to the celebrities, where I'm doing, meals that are low dosed enough, but everyone's depending on how much you eat.
Just to let people kind of paint the picture a little bit for folks, I'm not sure they appreciate this, that when you're looking at putting together, so you're actually looking at putting together an entire menu, an entire evening dinner menu where each element has some aspect of a cannabis infusion in it in some way. So everything from appetizer to dessert.
Yeah. Everything is infused, but we also offer virgin sisters. Yeah. So if let's say you bring a guest who doesn't want to partake, then they can have the virgin sisters. The same exact food tastes exactly the same. It's just not infused. Yeah. Right. And let's say that halfway through the night you start feeling it, because it takes about 2 hours to kick in. Right. Yeah. Let's say about halfway through the night you're feeling it and you don't want any more, then you can stop. Yeah. And you can still eat what everybody else is eating. It's just not infused. So, being a cannabis chef is all about, making sure that you understand your guests and understand what they're all about and making sure that everyone has a great time. And sometimes people just need to stop. Yeah. Other times people think they need a lot more than they do, and they really don't. And you find that out too. I've only had one experience like that where I had a guy come into the kitchen. He's like, dude, first of all, he has this beautiful girl on his arm, and so you can tell he's trying to show off, He's like, dude, he goes, I'm a 300 milligram Corova guy. You're going to have to, do much better than your 10 milligrams for me. I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I'm going to serve you 10 milligrams, and let's see how you do it for a couple of hours. And we kept looking over, and he kept taking his girlfriend's food, and she would take the virgin sisters, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, 2.5 hours later, he's missing. Nobody knew where he was. And this is a mansion up in the hills, and they're looking all over for him. They finally find him downstairs in the guy's man cave, which is off limits to everybody. Yeah. Everyone, they said, do not go to, you're only allowed on these 2 floors, right? Yeah. He ends up sleeping on the couch in the guy's man cave, and they kicked him out, because he was just, one of those guys that he had to, show off, and he ends up getting shown out.
There's one at every party. There's one at every party. And I think that's fascinating, because I think that opens up kind of a whole kind of aspects of the cultural side of cannabis, or kind of the new kind of cultural side of cannabis. It's not the traditional pot culture. And I think that, how cannabis ends up playing into lots of different kind of wellness and social and kind of different lifestyles is really kind of the interesting opportunity in the cannabis space. Favorite recipe? What's one recipe that you love from the cookbook?
It really depends on the time of year. Seriously, in the summertime, everyone's asking for my dual color watermelon gazpacho, which basically I take a yellow watermelon and a white watermelon, and I split it up, and you have half yellow and half red in your bowl, right? Nice. And then the yellow portion or the red portion, whichever we decide, is the infused part. But you don't know it, but we just make a big deal about it. But that's really popular. My hazy Thai wings continue to be the number one asked for product out there. But we are doing some really great things. We're doing sliders now, and we're doing, Asian infusion. I mean, just like a lot of really, or Asian fusion type stuff. So we have over 500 recipes. So for me to pick up,
that's amazing.
My macarons are one of my favorites personally because I love macarons.
Yeah.
It's so we can infuse anything really as long as it uses oil or butter or now tinctures. We do a vegetable glycerin tincture, and we're making drinks now with that, and we're working on candies and a bunch of other stuff as well. So
that's great. And how much time do you spend in the kitchens at this point? Like how many hours a week or days a week?
Well, if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, I'd probably say about 6 to 8. Yeah. But we're actually pivoting with our company. Yeah. So I'm still doing the cooking, but I have other people that are helping with the cooking now, while we are actually going into the equipment manufacturing business, where patent pending process that actually takes your cannabis, remediates it if it's contaminated, it completely cleans it, and then can create the odorless cannabis that when you smoke it, there's no odor.
Yeah.
So we're working on developing the machines, the equipment to sell to manufacturers and licensed manufacturers and processors who want to get out there and put a more discreet product out into the marketplace. So if you're living, for example, in New York or anywhere on the East Coast for sure, because people really want to be discreet, you can be hanging out, at the park smoking a free leaf. We call it free leaf, right?
Yeah.
So smoking a free leaf joint, which looks like a really nice, it's not, it doesn't look like a cigarette. It looks like a cigarillo, but it looks more like a cigarillo. It doesn't look like a joint.
Yeah.
And it doesn't smell like weed.
Yeah.
So you can be just hanging out, sitting there, smoking, and no one will know, So we're in the process now of developing the equipment that's going to allow manufacturers to do that. So my time is now being spent on developing that and going to the industrial equipment as well as the home equipment part of that as well. People will be able to do this in their homes as well in the next year and a half or so.
Yeah, and I know you're kind of in the middle of all that, and you can talk about bits of it, but
I can't talk about that again there.
But let me ask this. So, 3 years ago, would you have thought that you would be sitting here today talking about manufacturing processes and equipment and licensing, methods of extracting chemicals from plant products? Do you think how much of a change? Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would not have. 3 years ago, I would have been like, top cannabis chef. And I made that. I mean, they named me top cannabis chef, San Francisco Chronicle, the Canadian Cannabis Awards and stuff. I did that like last year. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to be the chef. And then all of a sudden, people started finding out about the process and the byproducts of odorless cannabis with my patent pending process.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all the attention started shifting into that area. Because all the people that I cook for, I share things with them, and I would bring my odorless joints, and they would just like, what? How do I get involved in this? And that's how we're ending up raising the money to make this happen. So
yeah. Well, so I'm sure I'm sure that's been quite a journey. What have been some of the sort of better moves or things that you appreciate that you did right, and maybe some things that you didn't do so right? In terms of the process. What are some of your learnings having gone through kind of that whole journey of from being kind of a amateur cook to, being really a whole leader in the cannabis processing industry? I'll
tell you, the best thing I've done was to just be very passionate about what I do and be transparent with everybody and introduce them, not to be afraid to share their ideas or whatnot. And then they end up just staying with them and they die with them. And that's the end of it. You have to take a risk, and if you come up with something that's really exciting, do whatever you can to protect it. Like I said, my processes now are patent pending, but then get out there. And if you get out there and you showcase it and you meet people and you show the product and you share the product and you sample what you're doing, and you're just a good person, I think you're going to get a lot of attention and you'll be able to create a lot of traction. I mean, my dinner parties, those were things I never thought I'd be cooking for celebrities.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's what? I mean, I can imagine myself sitting 5 years ago in my apartment, in New York City, like a cannabis chef. What? But it all started happening around that time. And, I think you just get out there and you just do what you do best, put your head down and love what you do and then just share it. There's nothing wrong with sharing it. You should be able to,
Yeah. And I think it's a big part of the culture at this point inside the cannabis industry is that people are still pretty kind of open and they want to connect, they want to network, they want to learn from each other. And there's so much to learn and there's so much market opportunity that it's still very open.
Yeah. And you also have to surround yourself with really good people. Yeah. There's a lot of people in the industry that are not good people. Know how to weed them out. Do your due diligence. I think the most important thing for me was vetting people. Every time someone would say, hey, can you do this or can I do this with you? I'll always check them out because you don't know who you're dealing with. There's a lot of people out there you got to be careful of in every business. So just do your vetting and due diligence and stay true to what your mission is, and everything's going to be guided along the path.
Yeah. So in terms of how you've kind of stayed abreast of all the changes and all the dynamics of the market, what have been good sources for you, either in terms of information, in terms of meeting people, conferences, stuff like that? Like, where do you go to get your information on the latest?
Oh, so I am signed up to every newsletter out there, from Entrepreneur to MJ Biz, to like MJ Times. I'm very well connected in the industry, so I'm always talking to people, always going to events. It's really important. Yeah. The trade shows, there's huge trade shows, NCIA, MJ BizCon. I mean, there's a huge trade shows, just like a fashion trade show. I mean, I used to be in the fashion industry. I'm shocked. I mean, I was there when these trade shows had 50 vendors. Now they have 500 vendors. Yeah. So I mean, those are really great sources of information. But also keep your ear to the ground. I mean, people will tell you things that are happening that you're going to find out about a month from now in the press. Yeah. But if you keep your ear to the ground and you see what's happening and you have good people around you, then that's where I get all my information from. Yeah. And it's always changing, especially the law stuff. You got to make sure you stay abreast.
Yeah. Any, I guess, what have you seen recently, or what do you think that's coming down the pike in terms of the market or the structure, or, what's going on in the various states, international? Like, what are you kind of keeping your tabs on and see as being big opportunities for people in the business?
I'll tell you, I mean, I'm in California and, we just had a huge, I don't even know how to describe what's going on right now, but July 1st just turned our business here upside down. Yeah. Because July 1st was the date when all of the dispensaries had to have fully compliant product in their dispensaries. And if it wasn't, they had to destroy it or get rid of it. So everyone was having big sales. But you walk into a dispensary today and they only have about 25% of the product they had. Wow. And they're trying to get it back. So that's a big challenge for us here. I feel that, I'm watching Canada very closely. They're going to they're legalizing October 15th nationwide, which is pretty awesome. And what they're going to do with that, I truly believe in my heart of hearts that cannabis will be descheduled and legalized in the U.S. by 2020. And I'll tell you why I say that. Yeah. I think that Donald Trump want to leave some sort of a legacy. And right before the election, when times are tough and he needs those votes, I think if he legalizes cannabis, there are a lot of people, fortunately or unfortunately, that are one-issue voters or single-issue voters. Yeah. And if he legalizes cannabis, I think that he'll actually change his fortunes on that side. I won't say anything else about it or about him. If he wants to go down in history with something good that he did, legalizing and descheduling cannabis would be it.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here, folks. This is where it was first burnt out. Yeah, exactly. Excellent. So, Jeff, we're just about at time here. If people want to find out more about you, about your book, about the work you're doing, about Free Leaf, what's the best way to learn more, to contact you in terms of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so the best thing is, if you want to see what I do, just go to my Instagram account, The420chef. And we're doing really great things. See some really fun stuff on there, and we'll post a lot of pictures of the stuff that we'll do at our event, but also some really cool dishes. The420chef.com is my website. You can get the cookbook on my website, or go to Amazon. It's called The420 Gourmet. Twitter. I mean, we're out there in social media and everywhere we can be, and feel free to, you can get me through The420chef.com. Write me a letter. I answer everything I can for direct messages to those letters. That might take a day or two, but I try to get to everybody.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. Excellent. I'll make sure that those links are in the show notes here. Jeff, this is great. I'm looking forward to kind of hearing all the details once this thing goes more public. You're doing some really interesting work. It's exciting times.
One more thing I'll tell you is that we launched the Cannabis Cooking Channel about a month ago.
Oh, that's right.
So you should check out the cannabiscookingchannel.tv or .com, or also on YouTube. So, and there's like 12 episodes up already, or 11 episodes up already. So definitely check that out as well.
You are a busy man. Busy man.
Fine.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Today, you got to make sure you use every minute of them.
It's all about the hustle. All right, good. Jeff, it was a pleasure. I will keep in touch, and we'll do another episode at the next stage here. Great. I'm sure you'll be doing great things in the coming months. So thanks again.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Bruce. Yeah, thanks for having me. Take care.
You've been listening to Thinking Outside the Bud with business coach Bruce Eckfeldt. To find a full list of podcast episodes, download the tools and worksheets, and access other great content, visit the website at thinkingoutsidethebud.com. And don't forget to sign up for the free newsletter at thinkingoutsidethebud.com/newsletter.